Good day to you, child of God. This is the Remnant Seed Bible Study channel. Welcome. We got Passover coming up. We're coming up on the vernal equinox. Beloved, this time of the year should be in focus for every Christian. This is the time of the year when it seems like everything, the prophetic time clock starts and all the events start with the vernal equinox. And this year, since it's a leap year, it happens to be the 19th this year, which is coming up, and we're on the 18th. So we're the day before the vernal equinox, and I'm going to post this on YouTube today. So this time of the year, man, you should really be in focus, and the Christian should be on high alert, because in John 12, we're given the season, the time of the year when the false Messiah will actually be cast out to the earth. And we're talking a physical, bodily Satan, the actual physical Satan. It's being held in heaven right now by Michael and his angels. And there's going to be a war in heaven at this time. And Satan and his angels will be kicked out to the earth. And this is what John 12 is speaking about. It's speaking about the prince of this world. It uses the word prince. Daniel uses the word prince. He's called the prince and the power of the air. So it's one of his many names and roles. And the prince will be the false Messiah, the antichrist, instead of Christ, imposter Christ, the phantom Christ. And if you're not studied up on this, you are going to be deceived by this joker. He is going to be supernatural. He's going to be performing miracles, snapping his fingers, and lightning coming from heaven. It's going to be the biggest sideshow you've ever seen. And besides the first world age, this will be the biggest deception that mankind has ever seen. It's the crescendo of this age. And you're not going to hear this mentioned in one church, anywhere you go. They're not going to mention the fact that Christ himself said, "Now is the prince of this world cast out." And he was speaking about the time in his future, not at the present time when he made this statement. It said, "It's for your own good that I'm telling you this." And this time it just happens to be 5 days before the Passover. It couldn't be made any clearer by Christ himself. And many just read right over this. And Jesus wasn't speaking about now as in now. He was in the context of now, and this is one of the problems you run into with translations. He was saying now, but in reference to this period of time in the end, he's saying at that time, not just now. He was saying at that time will be the prince of this world cast out. And Revelation 12:7 through 9 speaks about this time when he's kicked out. And I'll show you many other times where this physical casting from heaven of Satan will appear, will occur. And this is when he stands in a holy place in 2 Thessalonians and claims to be God. You just have to put all these dots together, beloved, and know that these are all speaking of the same event. Christ mentioning, "I beheld Satan fall as lightning from the sky." I mean, he is going to be one imposter, one great imposter of the Lord Jesus Christ. And many people are going to believe that he is Jesus Christ. And so many people are going to get deceived by him. All right, now we're going to go to John 12 as the primary witness of this and the times and the seasons of the Antichrist. Jesus raised Lazarus at this time in when Jesus was still alive in his bodily form. He raised Lazarus from the dead, and this is one of the meanings of resurrection. He raised him from the dead 6 days before the Passover, and came to Jerusalem that day, which would be 5 days before the Passover. The timeline of these events is very important to us in the generation of the fig tree, because this whole thing is like a preview. Him raising Lazarus from the dead is, like almost like a type of him the Christ being raised from the dead. All right, so this whole thing is it's very prophetic, this 6 days before the Passover. And the true Passover, according to the ancient Hebrew solar calendar, falls on April 2nd this year because we have a leap year. And 5 days before April 2nd is roughly March 29. And beloved, we can't really get dogmatic about exact days and weeks and this and that. We since these prophecies were given, we have to keep our minds open and keep it within this season that's being spoken about. We're not going to be exact on the days, and I want to make that clear. So you have to keep your mind open. I'm giving you seasons. All right, now this year, 5 days before the Passover, which is 5 days before April 2nd, is March 29. Not rocket science, just go backwards. Okay? And this is the day that I would predict, and the Bible predicts, that this is when the prince of this world will be cast out. And we don't know the year, but we know the season. It's given to us right here, beloved. 5 days before the Passover. There's no mistake about this. The prince of this world will be cast out on this day, which is 5 days before the Passover. The exact year of this major event is not known, but Jesus himself has told us the season. Could it be this year? We don't know. We're right there, beloved, and I'll shed further light on this as we go. It should be obvious the prince of this world was not cast out on the day that Jesus gave this prophecy, so that you have to eliminate that, because it just didn't happen. He was speaking about a future event, which is the end times. Jesus gave this prophecy, but not this prophecy was for the future, okay, and even for the end times. It wasn't for that day, just to reiterate. All right, now let's go to John 12:1. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. Now this timeline is established here in reference to the Passover. It's very important that you understand this. John 12:31. And then Jesus says, now is the judgment of this world, 5 days before the Passover. Now shall be the prince of this world cast out. And he's saying now, looking forward to the future in reference to the timeline of this. From heaven to the earth as the false Messiah, the prince of this world, is referring to Satan in his role as the antichrist. Okay, and the prince of this world is going to be cast out in bodily form. Right? And this is from heaven. This is where he's at right now, being held by Michael and his angels. And this is obvious when you go to Revelation 12. He's got to be in heaven to be cast out from heaven. Okay, so we know that he is being restrained. And as 2 Thessalonians tells us, he's being restrained right now until the Lord gives him the order to kick him out. And there's going to be a war in heaven. And Satan and his angels will fight against Michael and his angels. And Satan's going to lose this fight. Okay, now let me break this down further. I believe the word now, as it's used here, should be rendered at that time. And Jesus was telling us that at the time appointed. He wasn't pointing at his moment in time, but to a moment far in the future, to the end times. And this is how you have to read this. And this is another problem you run into with translations. It doesn't quite catch what's really being said here. But when you look at the whole chapter of John 12, and keep it in context, you'll see that this is what this is speaking about, the end times. John 12 lays out the first coming of Christ and then looks forward to the second coming. And that's the context you got to keep this in. Why did Christ use the term now as a judgment of this world, cosmos, eon, or the end of this age? Now shall be the prince of this world cast out. Why did he use that language? And I'll do my best to explain it below. And to smooth this out, I would word it in this way. At that time, in the end, will be the judgment of the world. And this is the Greek eon, which is an age. Okay, it's not speaking of the world per se, it's speaking of an age. The end of time. We're talking the very end here is when this judgment is going to come, and everybody knows this is right before the seventh trump. Now the second part, and now shall the prince of this world be cast out, or you can read it like this: at that same time in the end will the devil be cast to the earth. This is talking about the same time, the end times. And this is how this should be read in context with the rest of the chapter 12 in John. This is speaking of the very end of days right before the seventh trump. The world will be placed under judgment at this time because Satan has been personally cast out to the earth. And this is like this is his final go at this, beloved. And this is described in Revelation 12:7 through 9 and in many other places. And I'll go over all the verses where it mentions this physical casting out. And beloved, I believe that we're already under judgment right now. It's in its beginning stages. Two things will happen in the immediate future. And this is my view on this, beloved. This is my take on it. The two witnesses will show up in person, and shortly after that, the prince of this world, the false Messiah, will be cast out of heaven in disgrace to the physical world. Many will take his mark, and their allegiance will be voted for Satan. They're going to give him their total allegiance, and because they're going to think he's God or Jesus. And this is going to be the greatest deception in the history of mankind. Imagine that. The devil claiming to be Jesus Christ, and many will fall for it. And you can see this deception being set up right now, beloved. There is so much deception in the world today that the normal person cannot make any sense of what's going on. And it's just the way the devil wants it. What does this mean in Daniel 9:27? And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause a sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and the spreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even unto the end, the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Now this is speaking about the end times when Satan is cast out, the very end of time. And he is the abomination of desolation. And in the midst of this last week, which is the 70th week, he's going to break this covenant with the people that he's made it with. And I'll document this for you later. All right. This is a covenant made between the prince and the people of the prince for the appointed time of 7 years. But it will be broken in the middle of it, in the midst of it, as it says it here. A contract made between the devil and his worshipers. And many get this completely wrong. They completely misinterpret this. a contract with the father of lies. And imagine making a contract with the father of lies. He's not going to keep any contract with you. If you look around at the world today, it seems as if John 12:31 could take place at any time. The countdown to Passover starts on March 19th this year, and because of leap year. And the vernal equinox is the start of a new season. It just happens to be the season when Satan shows up claiming to be Christ. I mean, he's got this whole thing set up, and many people are going to be deceived by this. 14 days from March 19th is April 2nd this year, and 5 days before the Passover this year is March 29th. Every Christian should be made aware of this time of year and be on guard and man the ramparts. Be ready. Watchmen, watch. Yet the church remains asleep at the wheel in keeping with the timing of all this. The two witnesses, in my opinion, would show up about a week to 17 days before the appearance of the Antichrist, the false Messiah. And this would be very close to the vernal equinox, give or take a few days, a week. And why would the church not be all over this? You won't hear a word of this being said in your church. This is one of the greatest events in history, and the church is completely silent, and they just completely look right over this. And they're actually teaching you're going to fly away before all this, and you're going to be gone. You're not going to take part in all this, which is one of the biggest lies ever told in Christianity, beloved. All right, and I'll just give you the verses that mention these two witnesses, and I'll show you the difference in their time that they're here on the earth, which is about 17 days. And I believe that this difference of time will give them a short period of time to be on the earth before the Antichrist, to warn the elect of God and everybody else of what's coming. Okay? And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, which is 1,260 days. Okay, and it's given in days, which is for God's children. Now, Revelation 13:5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. 3.5 years, or 1,277 days, which is a little longer than the two witnesses are here. It shows about a 17-day time difference, somewhere in there, beloved. Don't be exact with this. But, and you notice that this prophecy, 40 and 2 months, is given in months, which applies to Satan and even his children. So we have a time difference here, and I believe that time difference is so that the two witnesses can give us warning and give us instruction, even for God's elect. Or otherwise, if this time wasn't shortened, even God's elect would be snared by this devil and fooled by him. All right? The following verses all show us the same time in the future when Satan, as the Antichrist, will be cast out from heaven. His final role of this stage as the Antichrist, the spurious Messiah, the false Messiah, the fake Jesus. And beloved, make no mistake, there's no man that could perform these type of miracles. The Antichrist is not a man, beloved. He's a supernatural, anointed cherub, Satan himself in the role as the false Messiah. And you got 2 Thessalonians 2:4, okay? Got to be cast out to stand in the holy place. This is not a spiritual Satan. This is him physically. Luke 10:18. Beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven, cast from heaven. Revelation 13:13 does great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. The physical Satan as the Antichrist, the false Jesus. 13:14 deceiveth them that dwelled on the earth by the means of those miracles he had the power to do in the sight of men. Read these for yourself, beloved. There fell a great star from heaven, burning as if it were a lamp, okay? It's called wormwood. It's all the same mention, the same entity being cast from heaven to the earth to deceive you. All right, and then you got John 12:1 here, 6 days before the Passover. There is your timeline. Okay, and then I've already read these, John 12:31. I've already read that to you. And then Revelation 12:7, and there was a war in heaven as Michael and his angels fought, okay, and Satan got kicked out. All right? And that great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil Satan, which deceived the whole world, and was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Who do you think this is, beloved? This is the prince. This is the prince of this world being cast out. Same event, all right? And when you see this abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel, standing in the holy place, a reference to all these other verses, don't be deceived. This is the fake Messiah, the abomination of desolation. All right, now, beloved, you must understand who the people of the prince are in Daniel 9:26 and their role in the end times. And this is a mixture of the locust army, the tares, the gibber, the fallen angels, misfits, hybrids, and devil worshippers, every kind of unclean thing you could think of. This army that sets itself in battle array against the forces of good and against the people of God and against God himself. All right, now let's read this verse with understanding. Daniel 9:26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. Okay, now we switch gears here. And the people of the prince that shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary, in other words, destroy all the children of God, the sanctuary, and the city, which is the city of God and the establishment of God on the earth. Okay, these are the people of the prince that are going to come and try and destroy it with deception, with Satan as their ruler, beloved. You see how this all fits together? And the end thereof shall be with the flood unto the end of the war. Desolations are determined. The flood of lies cast out after of Satan's mouth after the woman in Revelation 12. It's a flood of lies, a flood of deception after he's cast out and stands in the holy place. This all fits together like a glove, beloved. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, and we already read this, and halfway through the week's going to break it. And, and then all these people are going to end up taking communion to the devil. And they're going to think that they're going to actually believe that he's Jesus Christ. And they will be so deceived at this time, beloved. There's going to be so much deception. And as a result, many people are going to realize what they've done, and they're going to pray for the mountains to fall on them. All right, now continuing in John 12, and on the next day, much people were come back to the feast, and they heard Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. Now this would place us 5 days before the Passover, and took the branches of palm trees, and this is where Palm Sunday comes from, and went forward to meet him, and cried, Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that cometh in the name of the Lord. And Jesus, when he had found a young ass, sat on it therein, and it's written, Fear not, daughter of Sion. Behold, thy king cometh and sitteth on an ass's colt. And this is speaking of the first advent. Okay, and then we got this mentioned in Zechariah. All right, and Zechariah 9:9 is the first advent. Zechariah 9:10 is the second advent. All right, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee, and he's just, and having salvation, lowly, and riding upon an ass, upon the colt, foal of an ass. Okay, and the second advent. And I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim, and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and shall speak peace unto the heathen, and his dominion shall be from sea, even to sea, and from the river, even to the ends of the earth. And this is when Christ comes back with a rod of iron. And then we have another reference to the first advent. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. The first advent, okay? And now we got the second advent. And she brought forth a man-child, okay, which is the first advent, who is to rule all nations with a rod of iron, looking forward to the second advent. Okay, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And this was the first advent, him being caught up to God and to his throne when he was crucified, and then coming back with a rod of iron. It kind of goes back and forth with the chronology, but it's speaking of the same thing, the first and second advent. Now, when you look at the context of John 12, and I want to show you why this is speaking of not about now, the time of Jesus at that time when he said now, but this is actually speaking about the end times. And let's read this. These things understood not his disciples at the first, but when Jesus was glorified, then remembered they that these things were written of him, and they that had done these things unto him. The people therefore was with him when he called Lazarus out of his grave and raised him from the dead. Bear record of these events, beloved. And Christ is documenting his first and second advent here in this chapter. And he's giving you a heads up right here. For this cause, that cause that I just spoke to you, the people also met him, for they had heard that he had done this miracle. And he's gonna go through the same miracle himself. He will be resurrected, just as Lazarus was, but he'll be resurrected to his spiritual body, and then later on translated. The Pharisees therefore said among themselves, perceive ye how ye prevail nothing? Behold, the world is gone after him. And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. And the same came therefore to Philip, which was of Bethsaida of Galilee, and desired him, saying, Sir, could we see Jesus? And Philip cometh and telleth Andrew. And again, Andrew and Philip told Jesus. And Jesus answered them, saying, the hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, bringeth forth much fruit. He's speaking about himself. If he's got to die, then much fruit will come out of this crucifixion, as he will become the Savior of all of mankind. And this fruit will continue to grow throughout this age. This age of time, this eon of time. Okay, and all right, now he that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto life eternal. If any man serve me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor, because of what he did on the cross, beloved. Now is my soul troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this cause I came into this hour. It's the very reason Christ came into this world in the first advent, was for this cause. Father, glorify thy name. Then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it, and I will glorify it again. Now, Christ is speaking about the first advent and the second advent, and this is God, this is God speaking about Christ. He's saying, I have glorified it and will glorify it again. This is God speaking. This is the Lord speaking, not Jesus, okay? And then the first part of the verse, Christ is saying, Father, glorify my name, or glorify thy name, which technically Christ and God are one. But this is being spoken of in this way here, beloved. Then came there a voice from heaven, saying, I have both glorified it, and I will glorify it again. And God telling us that He has glorified the first and the second advent. The people that therefore stood by and heard it said that this thunder, said that it thundered, and others said it was an angel that spake unto him, but this was God, beloved. Jesus answered and said, this voice came not because of me, but for your sakes. And this is for your sakes, beloved, at this time in history, right now. Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. All right, beloved, this should be on every Christian's, you should be alert and standing at attention right now at this moment in time in history. And every year that the vernal equinox comes up, you should have this date down and you should have it marked on your calendar that 5 days before the Passover, this antichrist could be kicked out of heaven. But then you should also look at the time the two witnesses could make their appearance on this earth, which would be right around the vernal equinox, which is like right around now, a little before, somewhere, in between, and a little bit afterward. Keep your mind open to is the exact date, but keep your mind open also unto the season, and beware. Man the ramparts. Keep your eyes peeled. Your situational awareness should be on high alert. It should be a red alert for every Christian. And it's sad, beloved, that the mainstream church doesn't have a clue about this. There is no warning being given to you by the mainstream church about this event at all. And I'm doing my best to give you warning, beloved. And I do this because I love you. And this is the end of this lecture. So stay alert, beloved. Stay alert. Those two witnesses could already be here on the earth. We don't know it. The vernal equinox, tomorrow, March 19th. So much love from me to you, and we will see you on the next one.